You know, right under the roads we drive on every single day, there's this hidden network of over 1 million barriers. You won't see them on any map, but they are literally choking the life out of our rivers and streams. So today we're going to pull back the curtain on this invisible crisis that's breaking our waterways apart.
Okay, so this is the ideal. This is what a healthy river is supposed to look like. It's a fully connected ecosystem. Basically, a natural highway for fish and all kinds of other aquatic life to eat, to breed, and to find shelter. It really is the lifeblood of the entire forest.
And then this happens. It runs into a culvert. But this isn't just any culvert. This one is perched, which acts like a waterfall, but in reverse. For any creature trying to swim upstream, it's a total dead end. This is exactly where that beautiful natural highway gets cut right in two.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll dig into the sheer scale of this hidden problem. Then, we'll look at the absolutely staggering cost of the usual fix. After that, we'll introduce a surprisingly simple and elegant solution. We'll look at the proof that it works and wrap up with an amazing story of reconnection.
So think about it. Every single time a road has to cross a stream, there's almost always a pipe, a culvert, underneath. Now, they're great for getting water from one side to the other, but they were never, ever designed with wildlife in mind. They've accidentally become these massive, unintentional roadblocks, creating an invisible environmental crisis on a huge scale.
And that brings us to this really key idea: habitat fragmentation. I want you to imagine you're on a cross-country road trip, but every few miles, the highway just ends. That is exactly what we've done to our rivers. We've taken these vast, interconnected ecosystems and chopped them up into tiny, isolated little pieces. And this, right here, shows you the difference so perfectly. On the left, you can see the problem in action. Those are salmon, literally hitting a wall, unable to get to the places they've been spawning for thousands of years. But on the right, that's the goal. That's a reconnected habitat where the river just flows naturally and life can move freely again. And you know, it's so easy to just focus on big, iconic fish like salmon, but this is about the entire food web. The real goal is something called aquatic organism passage, or AOP. It's about making sure everything from the tiniest insects and crayfish all the way up to turtles and salamanders can make their journey. When you block one, the whole system starts to fall apart.
Okay, so let's talk about just how big this problem is. What you're looking at here, that's not a map of city lights. Every single one of those dots is a potential barrier. Just in the northeastern United States, there are over 450,000 of them, and that's just one small corner of the country.
Now let's jump over to the Pacific Southwest. That number skyrockets to over 678,000 potential roadblocks. You start to see, right? This isn't just a local issue. It's a massive pattern that's woven directly into our country's infrastructure.
And then you get to the Pacific Northwest, a place famous for its incredible salmon runs, and the number is it's staggering. More than 775,000 road-related aquatic barriers. We're talking about a problem that easily numbers in the millions all across North America.
So, the big question is, how on earth do we fix this? Well, the traditional solution, it works for sure, but it comes with an absolutely colossal price tag, which makes it pretty much impossible to tackle the problem on the scale we need to.
The way it's usually done is a massive, full-blown construction project. You have to shut down the road, dig the whole thing up, rip out the old pipe, and then replace it with a huge, expensive bridge or an arch culvert. It really is the gold standard for fixing the problem, but it's also incredibly slow, disruptive, and wildly expensive. And if you want a real-world example, look no further than Washington State. A federal court ordered the state to fix just 825 of its highest priority culverts. The original cost estimate? Almost $2 billion. Well, that estimate has now ballooned to nearly $8 billion. At that price, fixing a meaningful number of these barriers is it's not going to happen.
But now, look at this comparison. This is where it gets crazy. At a site called Harris Creek, a full replacement would cost over $5 million. The cost to retrofit it instead? Just under $9,000. Or look at Watercress Creek, a nearly $2 million project versus a fix that costs under $5,000. We're talking about a solution that costs less than 1% of the old way.
So that insane cost difference, well, it brings us to this really innovative and honestly elegant solution. It's a technology that gets to the heart of the problem right inside the culvert, which means you don't have to rip the road up at all.
So, meet the FlexiBaffle. I know it doesn't look like much, but this simple strip of really tough, non-toxic rubber is an absolute game changer. It's basically a small, flexible dam or a weir that gets installed right inside the existing pipe.
Probably the easiest way to get your head around it is this. FlexiBaffles can turn your culverts into a fish ladder. Yeah, it's that simple. Instead of that smooth, fast-flowing chute of water that acts like a barrier, they create a series of little steps and resting pools that let fish work their way upstream step by step.
So how does this simple piece of rubber actually work? Well, it's pretty brilliant. First, the baffles slow the water down. That immediately makes the water deeper, which is really important for bigger fish. The space between each baffle creates a nice little resting pool. And here's the genius part. During a flood, when the water is really high, they actually flex and bend over, letting all that water and debris pass right through. That means the culvert can still do its main job of preventing floods. Okay, but the big question is, does it actually work in the real world? This is where we go from a cool concept to some really solid proof, looking at both computer models and some amazing results from projects that are already out there.
Okay, so this computer model shows you exactly what's going on inside the pipe. That top image, that's the before. Think of it like a fire hose. All that red means the water is just way too fast. But then look at the bottom image, the after. With the baffles installed, the flow gets deeper, it gets slower, and that velocity drops to a speed where fish can actually swim against it. It becomes passable.
And that's the computer model, right? But out in the real world, the results are just as mind-blowing. In New Zealand, a team of just 2 people managed to retrofit a massive 120-meter-long culvert in only 3 hours. And the best part? Fish started using it to get upstream immediately. The impact was instantaneous.
And that brings us to just an incredible story out of British Columbia, one that really shows the profound impact this simple fix can have. It's a story about how a 70-year wait for one very special creek finally came to an end. So this right here is Bon Accord Creek. Back in the 1950s, this 500-foot-long concrete channel was put in to control flooding. But it also created this super smooth, fast-moving flume of water that was totally impassable for salmon. It cut them off from 2.5 kilometers of perfect spawning habitat for almost 70 years. So what was the fix? Well, it wasn't a multi-million-dollar construction crew. It was a group of dedicated student volunteers. Over 4 days, they installed 60 of these baffles. And then, shortly after, when the first autumn rains came, this happened. For the first time in generations, coho salmon were seen swimming past the channel, heading upstream. A 70-year-old barrier just gone in less than a week?
And you want to know the cost of this miracle? I mean, it's unbelievable. The original estimate just to remove that concrete channel was in the millions of dollars. The total cost for the FlexiBaffles that actually brought the salmon back, $18,700. The difference is it's staggering.
You know, the story of Bon Accord Creek really makes you think. It shows that sometimes the most complex, overwhelming, and expensive problems, well, they don't always need a billion-dollar solution. Sometimes they're just waiting for a simple, flexible, and elegant fix. It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? How many other massive challenges are out there just waiting for a similar breakthrough?